Buenas tardes al canal Bucacción, aquí con Alejandro Bucavé desde Austria. Es un placer estar otra vez con todos ustedes que nos están escuchando y que nos están mirando. Hoy, otro día hermoso, este domingo, vamos a entrevistar a una amiga que está en los Estados Unidos, algo lejos de Austria, pudiéramos decir, pero es un increíble momento para hablar de diferentes cosas, de su educación, de su trabajo, de sus experiencias, porque también ella es una persona muy interesante que tiene mucho que contar y que también ha viajado a diferentes países, ha vivido en Argentina, ahora está en Washington D.C, la capital de Estados Unidos, estuvo en República Checa, estuvo en Hong Kong, estuvo en muchos lados y pues este programa, este canal se trata de exactamente crear esos vínculos, de crear estos puentes culturales, interculturales, para unirnos más a todos los que nos están viendo y seguir aprendiendo, ¿no? Es una experiencia educativa. Por lo tanto, le vamos a dar la bienvenida. Alicia, welcome. I pronounce it like in Spanish because we will also maybe switch a little bit to Spanish, Italian, Czech.
Yeah, sí. My
Welcome.
name is Italian, so Alicia.
Alicia, feliz. Vamos a hablar un poco en inglés, pero también en español, así que vamos viendo para que todo se entienda, por supuesto. How are you doing now during this COVID-19 crisis in the U.S? How is the situation over there?
Es muy difícil.
Oh.
Sí, it's very difficult since we are not allowed to go outside. We are required to wear masks in the grocery stores. And I live in the middle of a big city in Washington, D.C. So there's mucha gente caminar. There's lots of people walking around, and it's impossible to social distance at the moment. So it's a tough situation. Yeah, it's very hard, and I'm extroverted, so I love people. And so I'm muy triste. I can't see my friends. Yes.
Yes. But can you actually visit, I don't know, because maybe you live close to Obama, close to Trump. Can you actually visit them or?
Obama is very close to me, actually.
Yeah, no?
He lives in Wyoming Avenue.
Yeah.
Where I take French lessons twice a week, and
Tu parles français?
Je parle un peu français. Oui.
Oh, d'accord, on peut parler aussi en français, bienvenue.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tu parlais beaucoup de langues.
Tu habites près à Obama, oui?
Oui. J'habite very close to him,
Okay.
but my French school is next to his house.
Next to his house? Wow.
Well, there's the Secret Service. We're not allowed to go near his house. He has security.
Okay.
But he's
an invitation, right? Probably. If you are friends, so you have to show something, no?
Yes, and if you want to drive through his neighborhood, you have to show your license and your passport, and it's very, very hard to even go through that street. So, but Trump is in the White House, which is about 20 minutes from me, and his daughter and Ivanka live in this neighborhood in Georgetown, here where I am.
With the husband that is also in the government, no? What was his name again?
So Jared Kushner, he's the head of response for COVID, which I'm very worried about.
He's the responsible for this crisis?
Yes.
Wow.
And he recently wrote something on Facebook asking for doctors to help him give advice for him on what to do. So it makes me a bit nervous.
Yeah. Well,
my life is in his hands now.
Yeah, that is very interesting to hear this news, these issues, because you're actually there. Because we in the media maybe don't get the full story, no? And I think the U.S. is now the number one with the dead people, no? With the victims.
Yes, we have the highest death rate.
The highest rate?
Right now. New York City is the worst, and so that was my former home, Queens. And so I lived in Queens for a long time. I worked as a journalist, covered the
What haven't you done?
I can't sit still. I very
Yeah.
much have I love to learn things and explore, and it takes me to a lot of different places. But Queens is one of the worst hit areas of New York City. And the hospitals are overwhelmed with people. They don't have enough beds. People are dying in the hallways.
Wow.
And there's not enough ventilators to support. Currently in Washington, D.C., we have not hit our peak death rate yet. It's supposed to come in actually July.
Mm.
So right now, I think there's about 500 people who have died here in D.C. and Northern Virginia, but we will not hit the highest death rate for 2 more months. So that's really scary for me.
So you want to say that the deaths and the dying is going to continue for the next 2 months?
It depends on what city. So there's a lot of different economic models that are
Yeah.
forecasting. They're like regression models. They're forecasting when the peak death rate will be in each city. And New York City is coming off of their death rate, so they're finished. But the death rate for my city that I'm in Washington, D.C., will come in 2 months.
Wow.
So it's a really weird timeline. Each city has a different peak in death rates. And so it's kind of scary to hear about one city and people dying, but then you're next, your city is coming. It's very scary. Yes.
Totally, totally. And
Yeah,
do you think this affects the presidency of Trump, and also especially because of the upcoming elections?
definitely. I think that people have seen his response to not be as planned out or organized as it should have been. I think a lot of other countries saw the rise of the virus in China earlier and began to plan out their emergency resources, their hospitals, and prepared for this. And I don't think that he took this serious enough in the beginning, and that will definitely have a major impact on his constituents and who votes for him in the upcoming election. So right now, his response is to get the economy back rolling, but the important thing are to protect the people in the country and to make sure that he can decrease the amount of deaths that are happening right now. So he does have a hard challenge, but I don't believe he took this serious enough for his constituents to follow him to the polls for this fall.
Actually, I think many politicians or many people reacted like him. No, also, for example, in Mexico, the current president AMLO, and in Brazil, Jair Bolsonaro, they didn't took it seriously. No, even in Europe, in Austria, no, now they're doing much a better job. I just recently watched on Netflix Pandemia in Spanish, like Pandemia or something, like a very good documentary about all these kind of issues.
Yeah.
Very actual. And they also talked about the United States and about the countryside, that about the resources, medical resources, that they wouldn't be able to deal with such a crisis. And now we have it. How is really the situation there on the countryside? But because I think it's mainly concentrated on New York, right?
Yes. So it obviously in bigger cities you have more interaction with people because the population is more urbanized.
Yeah.
However, you also have all of the hospitals in the major cities, and they're more concentrated within the major cities. And honestly, that's where a lot of the financial capital is as well, so it makes sense. But you do have a higher risk for the more rural and suburban areas of the United States, since there are not as many hospitals and as many hospital beds per population of city. And that's really the problem, is to have enough beds per person. And you don't have, access to medical care as well as you do in the urban cities.
Mm.
But you are also more spread out within the suburban areas. I think the problem is the people in the rural areas are not taking this as serious, especially around Easter time right now. This is a big, religious holiday where people are gathering, and you have a lot of people still going to church, and these are, places where spreading the virus is a lot more prevalent than, the social distancing. So I don't think that the social distancing is being practiced as much in those rural areas. So there's a higher risk for spreading the infection, the virus.
How do you see, just to finish with this topic, how do
Yeah.
you see the coming next months, this year, with the COVID in the US? When do you think will things get back to normality?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a while. Everybody here is kind of accepted that life is not going to be normal for a while. Even when we're able to go back out to our jobs and have, restaurants and other activities, it's still not going to be the same as it was before. People are going to have to take greater precautions for second and third waves of the virus to come back. And really, the only way we can get back to a normal life in the US is to have the vaccine, is to have a way to stop that. So I'm pretty sure that our borders will not be open until that happens, because there's a risk of that coming back to the US again and having another wave. It's just so
For
easy.
sure, not the southern border with us Mexicans, because
Yeah,
they're not,
it's
they
really
don't
funny
like
because
us.
like the conversation is reversed now. We don't Mexico doesn't want Americans to come to Mexico, which I find that very hilarious. I mean, the situation is awful on the border right now, of course, but it's also interesting how immigrants have been released from ICE units and prisoners have been released because you're in such a small area, you have a higher risk of spreading the virus. So it's actually helping our kind of border crisis right now, between Mexico and the US. But at the same time, yes, Americans are not wanted in Mexico at the moment, which is very interesting to
Totally,
see.
totally. How does it affect, because you work for Uber, no? I know now you're not a spokesperson of Uber, but
Yeah.
do you think it affects? Of course, I guess, because this is all economical damage to many enterprises, to the economy itself, to the individual people.
Yeah.
But also, like, are you now home working, or can you work? Can you go out, or how is it?
Yeah. So I'm very lucky with the field that I'm in because I focus on cyber crime, and definitely like not a spokesperson for Uber or anything like that. But in my personal life, I am thankful that I can work on the computer, but that's not a reality for a lot of the people in the US. Tons of people have lost their jobs, especially jobs in the restaurant and service industry. There's only a small portion of these kind of jobs that you can continue to do at home. Luckily, with cybersecurity, that's something that is possible, but that's not a reality for everyone. And people that need to support their families, big families, and they're not able to have work or employment, that's a huge problem. And these government stimulus packages, I don't know if you know, but the government is sending $1,200 to everyone.
To everyone, everybody has access? I don't know.
Everyone with a certain income level.
Okay.
Yeah, and they will get this stimulus of $1,200, which we don't know when it's coming. I think in a few months, so it doesn't really help the situation now. But a lot of Americans can't pay their rent. We're not able to pay our student loans and credit card bills. So there's a lot of conversation going on with the government of are we doing student loan forgiveness, you know, but that amount of money is not really able to sustain a family or to really help enough with the economy right now. So
are you at least allowed to use Uber for free or with a discount?
we definitely get discounts, but I haven't been using Uber. I mean, I just, you know, for my safety, I mean, the company is doing very well still, luckily, with like Uber Eats and freight, but I haven't been using Uber because I don't want to, you know, contract the virus or spread it or anything like that. I've just been walking, and luckily I have a grocery store nearby, so I only leave to go to the grocery store and I come back. And I've been reading a lot of books and.
Oh, that's an interesting topic. What kind of book are you reading?
Yeah, so I love philosophy. So recently I've been getting into Stoicism. Yes.
Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, or what kind of?
I love Marcus Aurelius. I'm also reading a book by Massimo Pugliese. I believe he's an Italian author, and it's just called like Stoicism, and it's a great book. It's like Stoicism for everyday life. So I've kind of enjoyed this time, honestly, to really be able to read more, which has been great. And I've been writing a lot, and recently I was asked to write a chapter in a book on space warfare.
I read it in your Facebook, in your social media.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, I was just really excited. I wanted to share that with everyone. So I'm kind of just catching up on you know, these other activities that I don't do when I'm working, you know, full time. It really does take up a lot of energy to go to work and come back, and so not distracted. So I have no excuses right now.
But how do you structure your day now that you're, I guess you're not working 8 or more hours at home? No, it's just probably less hours.
I still work 8 hours.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah, I still have a schedule that I follow, which is pretty hard, I'm not gonna lie, because you know, I usually wake up at like 6 a.m. and I exercise, and then I get online and start working, and I have my kind of 1 hour lunch break, and then I'm trying to do this. I've been definitely waking up later because I know that I don't have to go anywhere, and my job is 5 feet from my bed. But the problem is really just disconnecting after work, because you're on the computer, you know, you're done working at maybe 6 o'clock, but then you have nowhere to go. You're still inside of your apartment. And a lot of the things that I do after work are like on the computer, and you know, talking to friends or Zooming like we're doing is on the computer. So it's kind of weird to just stare at a computer for your entire day. But you know, that's the reality of what's going on. I've been trying not to like watch TV or anything, just more like reading and.
But the reading you're not doing at the computer, right?
No. I try not to. I try to get away from the computer, the screen. I also have a punching bag in my apartment, so I like go and I punch the punching bag, and yeah, that's it. That's
and
how.
what,
I don't know.
And what are your ideas, your reflections on the books you were reading or you are reading right now?
Yeah, you know, I've been reflecting. I've been kind of focusing more on myself lately. I'm such a nonfiction reader. I'm always reading about economics, political science. And lately I've been reflecting on myself and my life, kind of my own.
How old are you?
I'm 31.
That's the midlife crisis. What?
Oh my God.
That's the 40s. No.
Wait until 40, right?
You're 31.
I'm 31. I'm going to be 32 during the peak of our pandemic. So July 6th is my birthday. But
so if we met 6.5 years ago, you were 25, 24.
Yes.
Such a baby.
I was a baby back then. I was really a baby. And, you know, after traveling a lot and seeing the world and meeting so many different people, it's kind of nice to understand, you know, like, what have I done? What do I want to do? Where do I want to go? You know, and I love kind of that reflection time that I've been having. So I've been focusing more on that than I have been, you know, like I'm going to develop this new theory or, you know, something like that. So it's good. It's good to just kind of stop and not have the distractions of the world around you and really like evaluate, you know, your life and who's important to you, what is important to you, and really, you know, get those values, you know, for yourself and to understand what they are. And I think a lot of people have been doing that now with the coronavirus. There's some positive aspects of it for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a great time for reflection, but I would be interested in how do you, because it's so easy to get distracted. Also, you're working full time, you're reading, etc. And just not to be, I'm not like very, how do you say, not spiritual, but esoteric. It might sound like an esoteric question, but it's not. But how do you find this voice, this Socratic voice that we're talking about philosophy, or this inner contact with you? How do you do it in your concrete example?
Yeah, that's a good idea. I was actually talking to a friend about this on WhatsApp, since that's all of my conversations have been deep but online. Um, yes, when everything is quiet and you can hear your own thoughts, you really start to have this kind of authentic stream of consciousness. And for me, I'm an extrovert, but I also like being introverted sometimes. And when I do get into an introverted moment, that authentic stream of consciousness comes out very clearly and really solidifies my life philosophy, I guess you could say.
So it's rather easy for you to have this contact with your life philosophy, or?
No, it's not. It's really hard actually because I don't want to hear it, the voice, like the consciousness sometimes. I want to distract myself with, you know, friends or activities and really being forced to just be alone. And I've been alone here for a month now by myself. I haven't had contact with people. Is kind of painful, but it's a good sort of suffering, as like Nietzsche would talk about how he was sick and confined and all of his good ideas came from that confinement. So I feel something similar.
And now you said you were 1 month already, like alone there?
So as soon as I heard about this virus that happened in China, I quarantined myself 2 weeks before it came to the US.
So that means since when are you, like beginning of March in quarantine?
No, the end of February.
You are in quarantine already?
Yeah, so it's maybe been even longer since
Yeah, wow. Okay, so you took it really
it's been about a month and a half. Yeah, so I lived in China. I've been to those wet markets before. I've actually contracted a virus in southern China before, which was really scary. And so as soon as I heard that this virus was happening in China, I was like, I'm not playing around. This is serious. And I did not go outside, and so far I have not contracted this virus, so it was a good idea. But also, you know, right away when people were not taking this serious in the US, you know, after seeing the animals in those markets in China, I was like, no way, like this is not a good thing that's happening. So I definitely took it serious right away and started wearing a mask. And people in the US don't really want to wear these masks. So
you didn't have problems of, sorry for the interruption.
Oh, no, yeah.
Problems when you re-entered after your last visit in China for being maybe they thought you are Taliban or something with the mask? Or?
With a mask. No, I mean, I do wear them in the airport, but I don't wear them. I didn't normally wear them in the US. I usually wore them in China and Asia, but mainly for pollution, because the pollution's so bad that you wear it for that reason, not, not to be sick. But when I lived in Hong Kong, I lived there during the flu season. So everybody was wearing a mask during flu season, which is now like January, February, March. And I did wear a mask there in Hong Kong because of the spread. It's so easy to spread illness there. So, but in the US, I think it's a cultural thing. We don't want to cover our smiles.
That's a nice positive view of seeing this, yeah.
Yeah. I guess that's a nice way to put it, right?
But why does your president not smile so much?
I don't know. I think that he doesn't want to wear the mask because it makes him look, look bad, I guess he doesn't want to look bad.
Okay.
But I don't know. Like, I have no idea why he would tell everybody to wear a mask and then not wear the one himself. To me, that doesn't make sense. So
when were you the last time in China or Hong Kong, to say? And what do you think about before the virus? There was the protests and all this political issue. What do you think about this? And how do you think it will go on after the crisis, after the Corona crisis, probably? But do you think Hong Kong will get its or maintain its special status or even get independence? Or do you think China won't allow it?
That's a really interesting question. So I wasn't in Asia. I was in South Korea in mid-January, so not too long ago. And before that, I was in Taiwan and the Philippines, more for a vacation, traveling sort of thing. But I left Hong Kong before the protests started. But I do have a lot of friends in Hong Kong who I talk to often, and they tell me what's going on and happening. And I believe that because of the coronavirus, it's really stopped a lot of the protesting because it's just too dangerous to be in a huge group of people. However, it will be interesting to see what happens once everything goes back to normal in Hong Kong and China, because China is now losing a lot of support for their government because of how they dealt with the coronavirus. And you can see that happening a lot on social media, Chinese social media, right? So they're trying to censor that conversation. But I believe that China is going to be turning domestically to really focus on the domestic politics and not as much as, making sure Hong Kong is a part of China right now. So I don't see the conflict being as extreme as it was before the coronavirus, but I also see Hong Kong having more autonomy right now since China is more focused on domestic affairs.
You traveled quite a lot. Just now you mentioned I was in South Korea in January, Taiwan, Philippines, Hong Kong. You really like to, and before you told me of the interview, you lived or you were in Buenos Aires, and maybe you can tell us more about this. And also, I think it was also connected to projects, to work, and even your background. No, you said I think somebody of your family is Italian, and or you, or yes, maybe you can tell us more about this beautiful mixture of culture.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's my favorite. And that's really where I got into international affairs, politics, because I think it's—
That's what you studied, no, also?
Yes, I did. I studied international and diplomatic studies in the Czech Republic in Prague for 2 years. And then I did an Erasmus exchange in Milan and studied the economics and politics of the European Union.
Wow.
So
before you continue, sorry.
Yeah.
Can you tell us the word you mentioned before in Czech for the people that from Czech Republic that are listening to us?
Yeah. So I really love like the most important phrase. learn in any country is how to order a beer. So this is how you order a beer in Czech. It's jedno pivo prosím.
Oh, wow. Jedno pivo prosím?
Perfect.
Oh,
Perfetto.
wow. Thank you. Nice teacher.
I mentioned I picked up a lot of phrases in Czech, but the language itself is very, very complicated. Even your name conjugates based off of a tense. So it was quite a challenge to learn Czech, but I think it's a very beautiful language.
But you are originally from the U.S., but from which state or city?
Yeah, so I was born in Texas.
Texas.
My mother is Italian. She's from an Italian family from the middle of Italy, a province called Abruzzo. And she's from a city called Martinsicuro, which is more of a village near the ocean. It's like a fishing village, and it's so beautiful. I try to go there every year. Unfortunately, because of the coronavirus, I won't be going there this summer. But it's this beautiful, wonderful village where I'm related to everybody in the city. They all know me. I'm the American
Alicia.
Ciao.
Ciao.
I'm the American cousin. It's so wonderful. I really love the Italian culture and how they appreciate family and food and life and just like living in this joyous moment. I think that's something that everybody can learn from. But being in South America, I see a lot of similarities between, you know, the Mediterranean cultures and the Latino culture as well, which I very much enjoy.
Especially in Argentina, that you were there, no?
Yeah. So Argentina
Italian influence.
Yeah, so it's so funny because I really love the accent in Argentina because it's in Spanish, but it has like a bit of French to it, like the yo llamo, por llevar. And then it has this kind of tone that is very Italian. So it's like ¿Cómo estás? Like it's very much reminds me of, like of Italian, but just in Spanish. So I think it's a really cool mixture of Spanish and Italian together, and the culture reminds me a lot of Italy as well, being in Argentina. And I love South America. I love Mexico as well. I've been in.
You have been to Mexico?
Oh yes, many times.
But not only Tijuana from San Diego.
Oh, I've actually never been to Tijuana.
That's good because many people say, I went from San Diego to Tijuana. I know Mexico.
No. That's
the best place, no? And not
you know,
from Tijuana that are watching us, huh?
Yes. No, I'm sure Tijuana is amazing. I actually have a friend right now working in the embassy, the U.S. Embassy there. And she's like, you have to come and I'll show you around. And definitely want to go visit. My favorite city in Mexico is actually Puebla, which is a city outside of Mexico City. And it's, oh my gosh, I'm eating from a plate from Puebla. They have this beautiful, you can kind of
ceramic.
Yes, the ceramic. I have my
what is on the bowl? What kind of food?
These are Japanese yams, sushi rice, seaweed, and spicy cucumbers.
Intercultural.
Yes. I'm kind of just throwing together whatever is in my refrigerator right now. But I just really loved Puebla. It was an amazing, everything was colorful and artistic. The people were very friendly there. And I had a blast in Mexico City as well. So yeah, I love Mexico. I really love Mexico. I can't wait to go back there. I would love to go to Oaxaca in the south. I heard the cheese is amazing and I love cheese. So
who doesn't?
Right? Who doesn't love cheese, right? So yeah, I really do. Okay, now I'm sidetracked with Mexico. I don't remember what I was talking about before.
You were telling well, it's fine. No, you were telling us Argentina, Mexico, but that your mother is from Italy, que parla italiano, ma
Sì, parlo italiano.
Padre di dove?
Mi padre solo americano.
From Texas.
He's from Iowa, so he's from the Midwest.
Jesus Christ. It's
Yeah,
complicated to put in the puzzle of Alicia. Alicia!
I know. Alicia,
From
perché? Dove? Dove sei?
Dove Alicia?
Dove
But
Alicia? Non lo so.
so he's from Iowa? From which city?
He's from a city called Fort Dodge, which
Because
is
the capital is Des Moines, no? The capital.
Des Moines, yes.
Des
So
Moines,
this
yes.
is just a very far away city. It's not even a city, it's just very tiny. I
It's
think there's
in the
maybe
middle of nowhere,
1,000
no?
people
It's out in
in
the
the middle of
pampa.
nowhere. It was very weird growing up with this kind of Midwest culture. And then my mother's culture, which is very European Italian. So and
And
sometimes
then in Texas.
and then I was in Texas until I was 5, and then we
Okay.
moved to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Where, and in Texas, in which city?
We were in Dallas.
Okay. Dallas,
And
then to Philadelphia?
And then to Philadelphia. And then when I was 11 or 12, we moved to Colorado.
Jesus Christ. Okay.
So I grew up the rest of my life in Colorado, all the way up.
Where? Colorado Springs?
That's good that you know that. No, like Colorado Springs is in the south. So I grew up in the north, called Fort Collins. It's there's Denver, and then you go north, there's a city. You've heard of it? Really?
Yeah, I know a little bit, also because of the history, Fort Collins, etc. No?
Oh yeah, exactly.
I'm quite interested in geography, history, the U.S. So
we had a lot of German, Swedish, and Norwegian settlers in that area. So if you go to Fort Collins, everybody's blonde hair, blue eyes. It's pretty crazy.
Well, I think you also have green eyes. If I
have blue eyes, but I have brown hair. You can see my eyes. I have blue eyes. And actually, my Italian family has blue eyes. So.
Well, in Italy, it's quite often also.
Yes, yeah. The Italian people look very different, like everywhere you go. But I grew up with a lot of Mexican people, though, in my city. A lot of my friends were from Mexico.
In Colorado now, or which?
In Colorado. Okay. All the Spanish I learned was hanging out with my Mexican friends, and everyone says, Alicia, like how come you know how to dance like a Latina girl? And I say, I was going to Mexican salsa clubs when I was 15.
Nice. But I remember also because we met at our program, I think the RAUN means Regional Academy on the United Nations. It was a program on 4 countries: Austria, Czech Republic, Slovenia, and Hungary, no?
Yes.
And the first session, I think, was in Czech Republic, in Prague, where we met you because you were studying there. And after these programs on diplomacy, international relations, etc., we often, of course, went for a piva, beer. And I remember you dancing, so...
You do? Okay, that's what happens. When I drink beer, I usually dance.
But you should show us something, a proof of it.
Right now,
stand up.
I know. I don't know if you can see me because I have a chair.
Of course we can see you. Come on.
Okay, so
you're extrovert.
I can do salsa here.
This is kind of salsa move.
Yes. So that's usually what I do is salsa. I also take tango, and that I learned from Argentina. In DC, there's an Argentinian man, and he turned his house into a dance studio. It has like
San Telmo, which place?
It's called the House of Tango, and it's here in DC. And he's an old Argentinian man, and a lot of Latinos go, and
I have a milonga there.
Huh?
You can have a milonga there.
A milonga. It basically turns into a milonga.
Wow, nice. So
I do some tango there. I must say I enjoy more moving my hips. But there's a Colombian salsa studio here in DC that I go to, and it's really fun. And I'm a part of a performance team. Oh. And so so we're always dancing.
Full of activities. Nice.
A lot. I actually learned how to do salsa in China when I was living there. So
Wow.
very strange place to learn salsa.
Yeah, actually, you don't expect it. But how I experience the Chinese is also like they really love to sing. Also in Taiwan, everybody's doing karaoke, and I really suck at singing. So it was for me a difficult challenge because if I sing, the people run away. I think I could work for the discos when they wanted people go home. I could start a song, but and also they like dancing, but they are really like disciplined in doing things, no? Not like in studying, because when I was there in 2006 for exchange at Shanghai, Fudan, and Beijing.
Oh, you were in Fudan. I was at Donghua.
Ah, nice. You see,
I
many.
know what Fudan is. Yeah, that's a good
And
school.
they were really disciplined in sports, in university, and also in dancing, no? Like, not maybe not that much as in North Korea, because I visited North Korea in 2011.
North Korea.
Yeah.
Like Kim Jong-un, North Korea, or South
Yeah.
Korea.
No, South Korea also. I went to North Korea, Pyongyang, etc. for 3
Oh
weeks.
my gosh.
And
Wow.
was really impressed because of this thrill, of this discipline. They showed us some kids, some wonder kids that could play piano with 4 years old. He could play Mozart. Some football kids that's, yeah, really like impressive, no? But of course, I guess it's also because of physical violence, psychological violence, etc.
Yeah,
No, it really
manipulation.
impressed me. But anyways, no, I think the Asians, if we can label them, or I don't really like to talk about like in a collective, no, but they are really disciplined. Like they're much more disciplined than the Western, I think, when they do something, no. And this impressed me when you see a Chinese guy speaking Spanish, because in Taiwan I was also for exchange in Taipei and in Taichung, and
Oh, what? How do I not know this?
yeah, well, it's like you, full of surprises.
So
And
cool.
then this guy, there was so a Chinese Latino community. They were actually Latinos with the citizenship, and later they get a dual citizenship, but ethnically they were Chinese. So you saw a Chinese guy, and he spoke like Argentinian Spanish perfectly, or Brazilian Portuguese, and I was, where are you from? You're more Latino, also from his culture, no? From his sense of humor, from his joy of life, because the Chinese are not like that, like the Latinos, no? It's like probably a stereotype, but also particularity of Latinos, no?
That's really interesting, because like Brazil has the largest Japanese population outside of Japan.
Yeah.
And also in Peru, there's a huge Chinese population in Peru.
Well, even a president, a Japanese, Fujimori, no? Alberto Fujimori, that is in prison now, and his daughter also, because she wanted to get president.
Yeah, that's right. There's a restaurant here called China Chilicano in D.C, and it's a fuse of Peruvian and Chinese food together, and it's delicious. And so you kind of see that meshing of two cultures together, that fusion, which I find so interesting. What's great about the U.S. is we're all from all over the place. Like I'm half Italian, and everybody comes from everywhere, and the US is this country where we have tons of problems, right? But then we have this like beautiful interwoven rug of cultures, and have created beautiful things by bringing people together from different walks of life, which I find.
But at the same time, for example, you mentioned the restaurant with the Chinese, Peruvian ceviche, for example, no, is one of the examples because of the seafood, the importance of seafood. But at the same time, the Peruvian guys say, no, it's from Peru. The Mexicans say it's from Mexico, no? And in the US, what I noticed,
I think the Colombians say it's from Colombia.
Also, the Ecuador, no, it's from us.
Yeah.
So I think it's not only concerning the US, it's not only historically, but also in the actuality that, for example, because you say we are like the melting pot, no? It's also like the American dream, like a little bit a stereotype, I think, of the US, because in the end, in the norm, not only historically, also now, the norm is Anglo-Saxon still, no? And white. And when you want to enter with a visa or something, with ESTA visa, for me, like as a French Mexican, It's difficult. It's not difficult, but you have to tick, what am I? Am I Mexican, Latino, Hispanic? Am I European? And actually, I have 50% of both, no? So it would be like Barack Obama. What does Barack Obama tick? What Afro? And of course, and it's not only because of his cultural identification, but also in this theory or in this hierarchy of races, of ethnicity, if you have 99% whiteness and 1% black, you're black. So of course this is very racist, and we still have it in this post-colonial world. And I think it's a nice issue that you mentioned, like this melting pot, etc. But at the same, you're not equal, no? Of course, if you are Italian minority, German minority, you have more chances of not being in prison than if you're Afro-American or Mexican, no? This is
and it's interesting if like somebody sees me, they assume that I'm like Anglo-Saxon American, but really I'm not, because I come from the Mediterranean. So I'm not that, you know, many generations of American, you know, that somebody would think, but I look in a certain way, so then I'm assumed to be that. And that's definitely a huge problem in the US. We have a huge race problem. And I think that even the Anglo-Saxon, the percentage of people that are Anglo-Saxon is shrinking in comparison to minorities,
Mexicans
and immigrants. And half of the US, I think it's like 46% are from Latin America. Like that's half of the US. And sometimes I think, like, why doesn't everybody know Spanish here? And I really think that those, you know, that Anglo-Saxon culture does hold on to the traditional values and make sure that we don't move in that direction, like lose that Anglo-Saxon culture. But the reality of the US is that is not what the US is anymore, you know? And I think that it's harder for people to accept that it's changing. And change is always hard, and it's hard for everyone. But in order to stay a powerful country or to grow, like, and you have to accept the change, which I see a lot in the tech community, working in the tech sector. It's just really incredible how we have people from China, India, Latin America, you know, working together. And we're, at my company, we're so successful because we have that, you know,
your
like
CEO
that.
is Asian, no? Indian American or something?
Who is?
The CEO of...
Oh, he's Iranian American.
Irani. Yeah, Iranian.
Yes. And it's just so incredible, because I even have a team that I work with in Mexico City. That's like our next biggest team for Uber with the department I work at. And so I'm constantly communicating, you know, in Spanish or talking to people there in Mexico, and we're solving problems together. We're people all over the world, and the tech culture is really accepting of change and collaborating between cultures. And I think that's wonderful. And the government in the US needs to adapt that as well. And I think there's a lot of other, you know, sectors that are behind with that. But I think that's why the private sector is solving a lot of the problems of the coronavirus right now. Like Uber is providing free meals to Italians, and providing free, like, promo codes for Uber Eats, so people, for healthcare workers, and free rides. And so the private sector is stepping up and solving these problems. And like, that's something the government needs to be getting on board with as well, right?
I don't know that. About cybersecurity and your work, cybercrime, just if you may mention, what can we think about it when you say cybersecurity? What do you deal with?
Yeah, you know, it's really interesting, because cybersecurity is this kind of undefined, ambiguous term that everybody interprets differently. So I talk about cybersecurity in terms of securing your company or your organization's privacy, data, and profit. That's how I would interpret it right now, what I'm doing. But I mean, we're moving towards a world where people's information is being used maliciously. You know, people's livelihoods are threatened when their bank accounts are drained. We're really moving to the future of cyber crime and hacking, to hacking critical infrastructures of governments, and taking away, the government's ability to control the critical sectors of their country, like the financial sector, energy, everything really, like everything that happens within your country. For example, another country could hack the U.S. and shut down all of the supply chain routes and turn off all the lights. And, the country goes into a panic. And so like that's what I thought would happen before a pandemic, but the next big thing, but definitely the pandemic happened before that. But I think that within the next 5 or 10 years, the next, big panic is going to be cyber warfare and cyber conflict between countries. And most likely it's going to be between China and the US and maybe Russia. But it's something important to think about now. Instead of responding to it, it's good to prevent that from happening for the future. So I don't actually deal with that on such a macro level, but day to day, I help protect my company and, criminals and threat actors that are, online. So.
Do you want to tell us a little bit more about when you moved to Colorado, and then your background, and how did you find this interest in moving out of the US? Because I think, I don't know if it's a right statistic, but over 50% of the US people, even quite more, they don't even have a passport.
80% don't have a passport. 80%.
Wow, you see, I think you're how many millions are you? 300 something?
350 million people.
So 80%, it's, well, I was never so good at math, but at least
that's me.
Where's
my calculator?
Yeah, you can calculate 325 and, well.
350 million.
350?
350 million, yes.
Okay, and 80%, well, 350.
And that statistic is something I looked up a few years ago, so that could be different now.
Okay. But definitely a lot. And there were also even like polls where they were asking them during the Afghanistan war and the Iraq invasion 2003, etc., if they would know in the map where is Iraq, where is Afghanistan. And a lot of people, even with families that were fighting over there, they didn't know. So this is, of course, is a complex issue, has a lot to do with education, with media manipulation, I guess, and many, many elements. But how you, well, probably maybe because of your biographical background, how did you had interest in the outside and moving away from stereotypes and learning different languages, studying in Czech Republic? How does one person living in Colorado says, I'm going to study to Czech Republic, no?
Yeah.
It's like you're living in New York and you say, I'm going to Rwanda, no? So.
Yeah, I didn't know what the Czech Republic was, like, to be honest, until I knew it was a country in Europe, but
well, that's a good point. Not that you thought it's in Africa or in Asia.
That's true. And I sometimes I think it's funny because when I came back from the Czech Republic, I went through immigration here in the US, and they said, "What were you doing in Czechoslovakia?" And I was laughing, and I was like, "It's not Czechoslovakia,
Well, it's in 95, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Once they split up into 2 different countries, and so and now it's even called Czechia, which is like, it's weird for me to say Czechia. I don't know if I can accept it yet. But yeah, I grew up in Colorado in a really small town. It was more conservative, more traditional. I wouldn't say that my family were like travelers or anything. And my mom is Italian, but she grew up in a really, a really poor area. She really didn't have she had like 7 siblings, and her parents struggled to feed, the family. So she didn't have opportunities to go abroad. And I think that's the most important thing, is to have educational opportunities to leave your country. Luckily, when I went to college, I was able to do this. I was able to take out a loan for school, but then pay the tuition of a school in Germany. So I lived in Germany for a while as well. And in the
that, okay.
forest, in der
Where in
Schwarzwald.
Germany?
Ich kann auch auf Deutsch sprechen.
Also, wir können auch auf Deutsch reden. Wow.
Oh nein, nein.
Alicia!
Mein Deutsch
Alicia!
ist gut.
Wow, you're full of surprises.
Right? So are you. So are you.
But you just took an operation or something. You are 80, 90 years or something because you have done so much.
That's how I feel. My body now is just kind of like, oh my God.
But the body looks very young, so I wonder how you did it with all your wanderlust. But
I mean, it was a lot. Like I'm a dancer, so I feel like it keeps me going. It gives me energy, dancing. It gives me life. It gives me hope. My entire life I've done ballet, and I was a professional cheerleader for a while. And so dance has been a big part of my life, but it's also given me the energy to go out and like accomplish my goals and dreams. So, yeah, definitely. But I'm definitely starting to kind of slow down and be like, it's nice to sleep, you know? But yeah, I think that I can't remember the question you asked me.
Yeah, no problem. You were speaking about your German adventure. You went to
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. So my college offered me this opportunity to leave, and I think that it's so important for younger students, or young adults, to have opportunities to go abroad. And I think that's how you open the minds of people, and you get them to learn about new opportunities and options of how they want to have their life. And that's what happened to me. I grew up in this very conservative, traditional suburban town that was still quite big for a smaller town. But my plans and goals were to get married and study business and like stay in this town. And I never knew that I could have a different kind of life. I didn't know it was possible. And so.
But your goals were your goals, of course, from your cultural background, your fathers, your family, the community, were to get married, find a job, study business, and live a normal life.
Yeah. That was it. I had a boyfriend in high school, and we were going to go to college together and get married right after college.
Wow.
Or during college, I don't know.
And are you married now? Is he there to say hello?
No, single lady. That's a completely other topic, but it wasn't until I went to college, and college just opened my mind. I met a mentor who is now, I consider, my second mother. She's from Taiwan, and I took her Chinese class and just really was so interested in understanding this culture that opened up all of these opportunities. Huh?
Chinese also.
Chinese, yeah.
Ni hao, ni hao ma.
Ni hao, 我很好，谢谢.
Also the Chinese calligraphy I see at the back.
Yes, this is a dancer. This is also a tattoo on my back. So yeah, I love this painting.
Beautiful.
But yeah, it was I started off as a dancer in college, and kind of discovered Chinese, and then one day I dyed my hair black, and I was like very blonde, and I quit the dance team and just like started studying Chinese, and just started to be kind of rebellious and like want to explore other things. I made a deal with my father that if I got an A, which is like a 1, in Chinese class, that he would help me get to China and learn the language for the summer.
Wuhan, or which place?
I was in Shanghai when I was 18.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I went to Shanghai, and I remember I got to Shanghai, I was hungover in my pajamas, tired from this plane ride, and the airline lost all of my luggage. So I had no clothes, I had nothing. So it was my first time abroad, other than being in Mexico. I went to Mexico before. It's just so close being in Colorado, right? And so I got to China and I didn't have any clothes to wear and I had to go to class the next day, my Chinese class. So I walked into this market and my Chinese was very, very bad. And I was trying to buy a pair of pants just so I could wear some pants the next day. And they were in different like size, like number sizes, kind of like European sizes, like, you know. And so I was confused because
What the
usually,
hell?
yeah, like I don't know what number size I am. So I said in Chinese, I think I was like 29or whatever, which is 29.
Uh,
And they gave me these pants. I took them back. I put them on the next morning. They were so big. They were like out to here. And I had to walk into class holding my pants up my first day of class because I couldn't communicate, you know, or understand how to buy pants in China. And that was kind of my first language experience with another language. And I will never forget that experience because I improved so much
so,
from
so
that.
this was before Germany or after Germany?
This was before. So I was in China, and at the end of my time in China, I actually broke my nose during a breakdancing competition in China.
You were doing breakdance also?
I was breakdancing to earn some extra money while I was a student. And one day, Coolio was there, you know, like
Yeah, I know the rapper, the
rapper,
Afro-American.
and he was there, and they had this dance competition. I got on stage. I was breakdancing and I hit this like one move where I threw my leg over my head and held it. Then I fell off the stage onto concrete and broke my nose. And so I went back. I had to go back to America and get my nose like straightened because it was on the other side. It was very not attractive. And I thought to myself, you know, I'm not ready to come back to the US, and just signed up for a year of studying at an international business school in the Black Forest in Germany. And from that experience in China and then being in Germany, I kind of just learned so much about different cultures, different people, and just really fell in love with the world at that point. Honestly, I was having this kind of relationship with the world and found it to be so fascinating. And then I said to myself, like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Like, I want to understand the world. And that really got me traveling, and that gave me the motivation to take the risk to go to school in Prague. Everyone told me not to go. They were like, don't go to Eastern Europe. It's weird. It's scary. And I had a choice. I got into a school in Germany, in Sweden, in the Netherlands, and then Prague. And I decided to go to Prague because that was the most challenging place for me to go, the most different. And I thought it would be the best learning experience for me. And honestly, never went to Prague before, had no idea about it.
How long did you spend in Czech Republic? And
I was there for 2 years.
was for 2 years.
For 2 years, and then I was in Milan for a semester.
And how did you knew about the RAUN project, about the regional academy where we met?
That's so funny because I got an email. They were sending out emails to everyone studying in our school about this opportunity to be a part of this Eastern European research group. And it's funny because you're Mexican French and I'm American, so we didn't really fit the description. And I was like, well, I'm not from the Czech Republic. I'm not from Eastern Europe at all. But I'm just going to apply this anyways. And I went in for the interview and felt really nervous because I was the only like international student there. interviewing for this RAUN project I had no idea about, and everyone was interviewing in Czech, and I was like, uh-oh, I don't speak Czech, and went in and did the interview, and I said, I know I'm not Czech, but I think this would be a cool experience, and got in. So I really didn't think I would get into this program being from the U.S., but really such a great experience, and that's where I met you and did some incredible research, made lifelong friends. Just such a great.
You still maintain contact with other people from RAUN?
Yes. So my group, I did a project on modern slavery.
Yeah.
And we went to London to interview migrant domestic workers. We wrote this paper that was published in like think tanks all over Europe. It was so wonderful. The Hungarian Ministry of Defense published it as well. But Brigitte, she was from Hungary. From Szeged. I ended up writing her letter of recommendation for her to get into her PhD program, which was really cool. And so she finished that, and I believe she's still working at the school. And then
Jakob, the school in Szeged, or where does she work?
I think she's at the school in Szeged. Yeah, I'm not positive, but I believe that she's still there.
What's her name? I don't remember.
Brigitte, and then Bogardi.
Okay.
Brigitte Bogardi.
But yeah, sorry.
Yeah, we're still in contact, and then the other person on my team was Jakob Kreutz, and he is in Vienna. I don't know if you still talk to him, but he's there where you are. And I believe he went on to do his PhD as well in psychiatry or psychology. So, and we talk to each other whenever something is happening with the ILO, the International Labor Organization, and migrant domestic workers. We usually share articles. And I have seen our research actually be published with Human Rights Watch. So I'm like, hey guys, like, hey, our interviews are in Human Rights Watch, which is a big deal. And so it's really cool to just kind of follow, even though we're not still doing this, kind of like follow what's been happening and how we've made an impact on that. And I feel really good about, what we did. I think it was such a great experience to have.
And then from the RAUN project, you went to from Germany to Italy? No. Yes?
RAUN was in 2014. I went back to Prague and wrote my thesis. And so I wrote my thesis on game theory, constructivism, and U.S. China relations. Which was really fun. It was kind of my own quarantine because I didn't go outside for about 6 months. I was just researching very crazily. But that was also, did really good on that paper, and that was published in a journal here in Washington, D.C. at the Washington Journal of Modern China. So, yeah, it just,
nice.
It's funny because this quarantine right now feels like what it was like when I was writing my thesis.
So you have a déjà vu experience.
Yes, it's completely deja vu, a nostalgia. I don't know, either one. But yeah.
You mentioned before your dreams, that your second mother, I think a Taiwanese woman, was like your mentor. In what way, and which are your dreams or objectives, if you want to share that? How do you see yourself, I don't know, in the future, in 5-10 years, and maybe in 50 years, but I mean
oh my gosh, will I be alive? I don't know. I guess I will. In 50 years, I want to move back to that city where my mom is from, in Martinsicuro, maybe even sooner than 50 years.
Really?
And buy a house there and just like live by the sea where my grandma is from. I think I want to get back to my roots, my Italian roots at some point. That's really my like life dream, but my career dream is different. I'm very much involved in cybersecurity policy right now and the future of international affairs and cyber. And that's, to me, I've always been that futuristic person. I love post-apocalyptic books like 1984 and The Giver, and I love this kind of future world and imagining that and using my mind to imagine what could happen between countries. So I am definitely wanting to kind of work within cyber policy, if that's with a think tank, if it's with the government. I'm interested in understanding, what are the challenges and what are the opportunities with technology between countries and how we can work together. Technology is this new language that we all share. That is, how English was. Everyone was learning English, so we could communicate, and now it's everyone's learning technology. So now we can communicate with technology. So understanding, what are the shared norms between countries, and how we can work together in a diplomatic way to bring technology to everyone in every country. And really use it to our advantage, in terms of economic growth and security and gender equality, income inequality. There's so many opportunities with technology that I think is amazing. So that's what I want to do in the future, for sure. And, right now I contribute to a few U.S. committees on cybersecurity. I also am involved with Harvard's Berkman Klein Center, and they do a lot of internet security as well. There's a really cool think tank in D.C. called New America, and they focus on this, which is, international policy and cyber. So there's a lot of really cool places that are starting to kind of develop this niche for cyber policy. So I'm really looking forward to seeing where this is going. And I love being in a field where I don't have the answers to that at all. So.
Any particular book? I see your library.
Oh yeah, I have a library there and then here. I have lots of books.
Any particular book or article or database or film, I don't know, that you can recommend to get an introduction into this issue of cybersecurity, etc.?
That's a good question. There is not a lot out right now, but I would recommend, first of all, I'd recommend listening to my podcast that I just
You recently have a podcast?
So I contribute to a podcast called Carnegie New Leaders, and it's a part of the Carnegie Council on International Ethics and Affairs. It's based in New York City, but I interviewed recently a Columbia professor from the University of Columbia. His name is Jason Healey, on cyber, war, and peace. This is such a great podcast because he is just the mastermind of cyber, and one of the first, on one of the first cybersecurity task force in the U.S. And he just provides such great answers, to these future cybersecurity problems. Definitely recommend listening to that, especially since I worked on that. Some really great places for resources. I would also recommend Carnegie Council on International Affairs. There's a Carnegie Cyber Initiative, and they publish a ton of information. Harvard's Berkman Klein Center has a ton of information. Really interesting stuff on the future of 5G and telecommunications. So 5G infrastructure, who is it going to be, like Huawei or the U.S., China or the U.S. is going to create those, the infrastructure for the next generation of technology and communications. My favorite book right now that I definitely recommend, which I'm going to grab, it's right here. Okay. On understanding how to work with people from different countries is this one. It's called Kiss, Bow, or Shake Hands. And I really love it because there's a chapter, you have like a chapter of every country. This is Japan. and it just kind of talks about like how to communicate with a Japanese person. What are the, you know, what are the cultural differences? How do you do business in Japan? Just the country background, the history. It's just like a really cool kind of book to read about. And a lot of people love this book, and I always recommend it to everyone. The foreign service officers, the diplomats in the U.S. have to read this. It's a required reading for them, so I definitely recommend that.
Wow, sounds interesting. Well, I think we will surely have the possibility to continue our talk. Do you have something? It was really interesting to fly through our talk to so many countries, to so many cultures, to so many languages, to so many issues. Very inspiring, very interesting contribution that you made. Do you think for the people that are listening and watching us, would you like still to say something? In particular, something that you think would be relevant or interesting? I know we talk about many issues, but this was also the plan, no? That's to open up the mind to see not only if you are from the US or not, but to see that we are finally humans and that we can learn a lot from the different cultures, no? And in particular with your story, no?
Yeah, definitely. I think like a good closing word is to just not be afraid of taking risks in your life. So not being afraid to maybe talk to somebody that you wouldn't normally talk to go to a place that you wouldn't think of going to, and you know, being able to challenge yourself constantly. When you challenge yourself, you open your mind, and when you talk to people living lives in a different way, you learn to adapt different lifestyles into your own, and that challenges you to be an even better person. And it's important to be a good citizen to the world, you know, and I think that there comes empathy, there comes understanding, and exploration and knowledge. And so working on those parts of yourself makes you a better citizen to the world, and which is what we need right now with everything happening with the pandemic, with the rise of authoritarianism, is for people to just be better citizens. And I think that if we can focus on that individually, we create this collectivistic movement that really makes the world a better place. And I always thought that, you know, you need a group of people to make the world a better place, but really it's about making yourself better, and more understanding that makes, you know, makes the world better. So yeah.
Nice closing words. But now I was thinking, and you're writing about this book chapter for the book, and
Yeah.
joy is important for lasting happiness, to enjoy oneself and our activities. Do you enjoy the writing? Do you enjoy, or how much do you contribute to enjoy what you're doing to life? Because many people, they don't know what they like, or many people don't do what they like, no? Also because they cannot take a living of it, or for other reasons, no? How is it with you? Because especially writing a book and all this abstract intellectual work, sometimes it's very demanding, no? And a lot of concentration. It's work also, and
Yeah.
people, especially on writing, they procrastinate, or they prefer to do it like with the motto, deadlines amuse me. In the end moment, they write the article. How is it with you about this phenomenon that I'm mentioning?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm definitely not immune to procrastination. I'm always procrastinating.
I also, welcome to the club.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. I
Yay!
thought I'm the only guy.
No, you're definitely not. You know, but I know my flaws, and that's one of them.
Flaws? What does it mean? It's where, like,
A flaw, it's like a bad habit, something you do
Okay,
that's
okay,
like
okay.
not really helping your life, you
Yeah.
know, like sleeping in too late or not cleaning. I don't know, something, a flaw, like a habit flaw.
Okay.
Um, but I think it's very hard to make a living on what you want to do, on what you enjoy. I've always, most of my life, I've been doing both. I've tried to balance that. Like I do things that maybe I don't love doing, but it pays my rent. And then I have these kind of side hustles that I do once, once at 6 o'clock, I change I change my mind and I start working on the things that I enjoy. I do a little dance.
Go
I think that's
dancing.
what's
Yeah.
important with exercise. It's like you gotta get some stuff out and then you go right back to your mind again, which by the end of the night I'm extremely exhausted, right? Because you're just constantly using your brain power all the time. But you give up a lot of things. So right now it's okay because I'm in quarantine. I don't have, it's very tiny, but I feel like I've lost all my muscles. Like I can barely pick up things anymore. Like this is so sad. But
We are recording, huh?
okay, great.
Yes, you were telling us with the last question and about you remember the question, or shall we repeat?
Can you repeat one more time?
Yes, it was about we were talking about procrastinating. We were talking about how do you do it to switch to doing, because we all put things on the last day, on the last date, and how do you manage with this, no?
Yeah. I definitely am victim to procrastination and not immune to that. I procrastinate a lot. Sometimes it's a good thing because I get a lot of really good last minute creativity out of procrastination, but then sometimes it's not so great. So, it's something I'm constantly struggling with. But I believe that we don't do the things that we want to do and we're afraid of, living that full life that we all have inside of us because of fear. And I think the fear comes from failure and the fear comes from working hard and not getting to where you want to be or not being able to do it. And I mean, that's at least what I hear a lot from my friends and from other people. I've experienced that personally as well. But for now, my whole life I've always been hustling, and people know me as like Alicia the hustler because I take on.
What does it mean, the hustle?
Oh, that's a good question. I wish I knew like a word that's similar in Spanish, but I really don't know.
It's
A
difficult.
hustler means somebody who's just really working hard to survive,
Okay.
like just doing a lot, putting in a lot of effort, right? So I've always had a job that pays my bills, my rent, and then I switched to working on the side jobs, that the things that I enjoy more, that I want to develop and grow into an eventual career. So I've had multiple jobs all at once. Usually only one is paying me, and then the rest are kind of, ideas and things that I'm working on that in the long term are hopefully going to be that career that I want. And so I think it's important to have a job where you can financially support yourself, but don't give up on the other things that you want to do. Still do them, even if you're not, able to support yourself on those things. But eventually, one day you might be able to. So having that discipline to go to work, and then once work is done, you exercise a little bit, dance a little bit, and then you start doing the other things that you want to do. And that means you're giving up things, like you're giving up watching TV, you're giving up going to happy hours, you're giving up a lot of, fun things in your life. But hopefully, you putting in that time for yourself for other things that you want is going to give you that dream or those goals that you're looking for. And life is not all about beautiful, wonderful things. Like, you do have to suffer to some extent in order to improve yourself and to grow as a person. So I forgot to mention very quickly, I have a lot of ties to South America. My aunt is from Ecuador, from Guayaquil, and my grandma's sister and her family lives in Venezuela, in Caracas.
Wow. Jesus Christ. Really?
So I was kind of in South America seeing the rest of my family when I went there.
You've been to these places?
I haven't been to Caracas because it's dangerous, but I was in Guayaquil for a long time.
Nice, yeah. Wow. And you identify yourself as, if I have to ask you, because I don't really do you say I'm US, I'm culturally, I don't know, citizen of the world, human, no, I'm from Texas, or
That's, oh my gosh, that's such a great question. No one's ever asked me that. I definitely feel like I do feel American in terms of I'm made up of so many different cultures and things in the world. And in turn, that also makes me feel extremely global and like an international citizen, right? But I also, I feel, yeah, I'm connected to humans and people. And wherever I go in the world, I can connect with a person in another place. And to me, that shows me that we all want the same things, no matter where we are, or, you know, what color is our skin, what language do we speak, how do we live. We all want the same things in our lives. And to me, that's important for all of us to remember, because fear is what gets in the way of wanting to say you're bad and I'm good. And that fear, you can diminish that fear through knowledge and enlightenment. So
well, very nice words, and I was impressed what you said about your work. Then you go to do some training or dancing, and then you did almost all the last years something where you are projecting yourself, a project, another job that maybe doesn't pay the rent, but the first job does it, because it requires a lot of energy, a lot of discipline, a lot of, as you said, no TV, no Netflix, no, I don't know, no distractions, not too much social.
No Netflix and chill. No.
Yeah, no. So yes, it's like an interesting strategy also, because many people believe that firstly, they don't know what they want. Second, they procrastinate. And thirdly, they want their dream life from, if I say today I find it out, I want it now. I want it now. Not, I don't want 10 years to get it or something. Everything has to be fast, no? And of course it doesn't work like this, no?
You feel like that's the same in Europe as well? Yeah.
I think all over the world.
I think it's our generation. We want this instant gratification. And I think that's tied to capitalism and consuming, where we can just go to the store and buy something. But that's not the same with a relationship, you know, between people, or with a career. It's not the same thing. And you're right, like, we can't just get what we want. We have to plan, we have to strategize, we have to work hard, and we have to be resilient. And those are the things that we need to get there. It's you have to change your mindset. You know, it's the only way, I think, to get to the point where you want to be in your life, and to not be afraid of it. I think a lot of people don't know what they want, you know, and that's okay. But you should go on that journey for yourself. You should respect yourself enough to put yourself on that journey to get closer to what you want, or to at least look for it, right? And that's good enough. Even if you don't get there, you should still put yourself on that journey, and you should value yourself, that you put the time into that to get yourself, as a short period of time we have on this planet, you know, to get closer to that. Because when everybody is doing the thing that they want to do, they're contributing the best part of themselves to the world, and that makes the world a better place, and that makes the world, you know, using their specific talents in their way, and that's helpful for that person because that gives you happiness, but it's also helpful for the greater good of society.
Yeah, I think if you are happy and if you are doing something that you love, you automatically win-win. No, you give love, you do something with sense, and you help, as you said. No, but how do you go into this journey? The really last question. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
Go into this journey, and how do you really find out what you really like?
How do you go?
Because we have so many voices, so many distractions.
Yes.
The society, for all the people that are listening to us, maybe this could help as a recommendation, or as how do you do it?
I mean, honestly, like, this is going to be very straightforward, but you just have to stop giving a fuck. I feel like that's really important, is to just stop caring. That's the first step, is stop caring how people see you. Stop caring what other people want you to do. Stop caring, you know, how much money you have or how big your house is, or looking at the things that you don't have in your life, and reverse that. And it's really your mind. Your mind is the thing that stops you from getting to where you want to be. It really is. And there's a famous quote that someone said, the impediment to action is action itself, right? And so your
impediment to action
is action itself. So if you're not, that means if you're not taking an action to do something, you know, then you're not actually making something better in your life. You're not taking action. And the thing that stops you from taking the action is your mind. So yeah, changing the way that your mind is really the way that you start the journey for yourself. I fully believe that. And that's important, and that's hard, and that takes a lot of reflection, like we're doing now with being quarantined. But it also takes a lot of meeting people and asking them about their life, because they've already done it before, or people that are doing things that you want to do already. Ask them, because they've already done the work to get from point A to point B. So you're learning from them. You're doing a shortcut. You're making that shortcut where they can tell you the mistakes they made so you don't make them in your life. So yeah, reaching out to people that have those dreams that you want, that's so important to do that on your journey.
But how do you identify what journey do you want?
I mean, that's the most interesting part of life. Like, you don't know what journey you want. It just kind of happens to you. I remember my first day of college, I walked into my counselor's office and she said, "Okay, Alicia, what do you want to accomplish by the end of college?" And I said, "I want to be able to speak Chinese and German." Like that was those are my goals for graduating college. And she laughed at me and she was like, how funny. No, like, it's impossible for you to learn Chinese. Like, just take German. So by the end of my college, I actually learned Chinese, German, Spanish, and Italian. And so I learned those, and I learned more. So I actually surprised myself, right? And I walked back into the office and said, never tell anybody again that they can't do something, because I did it and more, you know. And it was kind of like, that is the wonderful thing about your journey in life, is it's full of surprises. You surprise yourself. There's a lot of things that are not in your control in your life, so you have to just put yourself in the best situation possible to direct your path. But things are coming at you, and you need to make sure you're open to those opportunities, and you are acting to these opportunities, and that's the only control you have, is taking action or inaction, really. And by doing that, you create a more interesting journey in your life. I hope that answered it. I think.
Very nice, very inspiring. Much really was a pleasure, and
Yeah.
especially talking about 6 years that we spoke the last time. So we had like social media contact, but really nice. And yes, I think you gave us a lot of thinking material and reflection material now that we have more time. So
yes, exactly. You're welcome. And someday I'm going to be able to communicate these concepts in Spanish, but now my Spanish is not advanced
perfect.
enough.
Surely. The next time en español o en italiano.
Sí, sí. Next time. Después.
Perfect.
All
Alicia,
right.
Alicia, thank you very much. Grazie mille. Ci
Grazie
vediamo.
mille. E te.
All the best to Washington D.C.
Ciao. Ciao from DC.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.